I showed up at their table like a man arriving late at his own funeral. Sophie laughed at something Jason said, her hand tucked under his like it belonged there. The restaurant's lanterns threw gold across her cheekbones, the same glow that used to warm my mornings when we made coffee together. A week earlier, she had told me, like it was kindness, "Nathan, I need a break. You're too emotionally attached," she said. "I just need space to breathe." I cleaned the dishes and nodded, because I wanted to be the kind of man who listens. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. But when someone hands you the word break and a private travel page shows up with lanterns, champagne, and another man's hand on her knee, you stop pretending. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates. I booked a room. I sat down at the table directly behind them with the lanterns between us and the ocean breathing at the edges of the terrace. I wore a plain black shirt and a face that didn't give anything away. I folded the printed photos in a small envelope and left it on my lap until the moment felt right. The fork fell out of her hand first. It clattered on the plate as if the sound could puncture the illusion. Jason looked over, confusion turning to something like fear in the space of 3 blinks. Sophie's smile dissolved so fast it looked rehearsed. "Nathan," she said, voice a pitch I hadn't heard in our kitchen for years, she said. "Hi," I said. "Mind if I join you?" She stood up. Her chair scraped. The motion made a soft chorus of attention in the dining room. People turned. He tried to stand too, a reflex, but his chair caught and he pushed back, jaw tight. He walked out without looking back. "You ruined everything!" Sophie screamed then, raw and loud. I slid the envelope across the table toward her with a calm that felt illegal. Inside were 2 screenshots. One showed her laughing with a drink, his hand on the back of her chair. The metadata in the corner was ugly in its honesty. Date, time, and a tiny place name, Sunridge Resort, stamp clear as a contract. "You printed my private page," she hissed. "I printed what you posted to a handful of friends," I said. "Screenshots travel." She tried to insult me, to make me the bad guy. "How dare you? You followed me?" Her voice broke on the last word. She sounded younger than I'd ever heard. "I didn't follow you," I said. "I booked the same resort, made an honest reservation. For 3 nights. Ocean view, charming, right?" He, Jason, stood at the edge of the patio like a man trying to be brave in someone else's life. I watched him go, watched him disappear into the night with the lanterns painting his back. The exit stung like a verdict. People took their cues. Someone reached for a cell phone. Another covered a child's ears. I folded the envelope closed and put it back in my pocket. I finished my dinner slowly, measured, as if I were eating through a lesson plan. When she asked for a break in our kitchen, she kissed my forehead the way someone might kiss a book before returning it to a library. "I need some air," she said. "I think we both do." She left a week later with a small duffel and a brief, practiced hug. I put the soap back under the sink and pretended the sink was the last person who had the right to my anger. Then, a mutual friend accidentally shared a private story. Alexis hit the wrong button. The close friends ring turned into a public circle. There she was, in a loop of photos, lanterns, and a glass catching the light. I zoomed in until the pixels looked like fingerprints. The reflection in her wine glass carried a tiny logo, a lamp curve, a knot of cloth. I cataloged it in my head. I hunted and cross-referenced. It didn't take long. Graphic designers do this for a living. Find the font, match the curve, reverse engineer the frame. The resort's gallery had the same lanterns and the same terrace. The private travel page matched a guest list. The photos were private but not protected from a screenshot. I printed the images because evidence in paper reads differently than accusations on a phone. A screenshot is invisible until you put it next to a contract clause, a timestamp, a reservation number. Evidence is a discipline. It asks you to be boring. I kept a notebook too, ridiculous as that sounds. It's a small ringed pad with dates, times, and 4 columns. Action, source, verification, note. I recorded the moment Alexis hit share. I recorded the time the screenshots were taken. I recorded my calls to the planner and the bank. I wrote down the names of the hotel staff who answered, the exact words they used, and the reservation number they gave me. It was tedious. It was also steadying. When everything else felt messy and mutable, paper is obedient. Paper remembers. People forget. I called the resort and asked for the lantern table, 7:30, and the clerk laughed the way clerks do, professional and small. "That's our most romantic spot," she said. "Perfect," I said. "Table at 7:30. Ocean view room, please." The clerk's laugh was polite. She didn't know she was handling a hinge. Hotel check-in is a ritual. Names, cards, a quick exchange about local weather. I asked about any special events that night, and she mentioned a couple's retreat, a vague title for a curated package. I asked for the staff to be discreet, which is the same as asking them not to make me the drama. The concierge agreed, but I knew discretion in hospitality is often a quiet fiction. People like to gossip as currency. I requested room 412 and paid with my card. "Celebrating quietly," I said, and they added a small note to my reservation. "Mr. Nathan Cole, privacy requested. When you decide to see truth naked, you dress plain." I wore black, sat with my posture tuned to calm. The goal wasn't spectacle. The goal was to observe what honesty looks like in public. They arrived with the relaxed swagger of people who believe the world owes them their comforts. He was easy to like at first glance. Good jawline, laugh that mapped out his confidence. He had a gym tan and a laugh that filled space. She walked with a brightness that had once been reserved for me. I listened while they traded small talk. He told a story about a boot camp and a smoothie he hated. She laughed and let her hand brush against his. When she looked up and saw me sit, her face shut down like a business link severed. There are no private pages in a small town of lamplit terraces and vacation photos. People eat truth for dessert when the main course is infidelity. "You're calm," she said, with that sickly sweetness some people use like makeup, she said. "Practiced," I answered. He tried bravado first. "So you followed us?" "Creepy," he said. "I booked the same resort," I replied. "Room 412, ocean view, table at 7:30. I paid in cash, sorry, card. I'm here because my fiancée is here." A fork clattered. Heads turned. She dug at air pockets for something to say, anything. The evidence slid across the table, a printout with 2 images and timestamps. Her hands trembled. "You embarrassed me," she said to Jason, to me, to the room. "You shouldn't have confused private with permanent," I said. This was a choice, not an accident. She got up and fled barefoot into the sand, heels kicked aside like old complaints. He followed in a flurry of anger and apologies. The night sounded like a bad television script. The manager later approached me with an even-keeled tone and asked if I'd like them to contact security. I said no. I wanted the moment to exist in public without police theater. He nodded and offered a complimentary bottle of water, the kind of small thing hotels do to calm a ripple. I accepted because it felt better to be the kind of man who takes water and keeps walking. Weddings are weirdly legal. Venues are contracts hiding behind lace and champagne. Our deposit had a clause: no major changes without written consent from both parties. I sent a calm email to May at Sterling Events. Confirmation of existing hold. No changes accepted without both signatures. I attached the screenshots as context, not as an indictment. The tone of the email was neutral because legalese is an anesthetic for drama. It turns emotional grenades into procedural memos. I quoted the relevant clause in my email to May. Per Article 7C, alterations to reception, venue, or primary vendor suppliers require written consent by both contracting parties. As per our agreement, please hold the original schedule pending mutual confirmation. I kept the language intentionally calm, because legalese is an anesthetic for drama. It turns emotional grenades into procedural memos. May replied within hours. Understood. Nothing will change without both signatures. If you need anything else, please let me know. Her reply was professional and short, but the tone told me she would not be used as a pawn in sudden changes. Contracts have people like May on their side, firm, bored, and patient. Next, the bank. I called the joint account fraud line, not to freeze her, but to place a monitor on large vendor transfers. The agent filed a monitor-only alert and advised us to update security on our vendor payments. I documented every call. Documentation is the slow armory of anyone trying to keep a life from vanishing in a week. I wasn't interested in spectacle. I was interested in procedure. Small administrative steps have a stubborn power. They last. I didn't stalk. The difference between surveillance and awareness is that one feeds paranoia and the other prevents surprise. I did not want a grand fight or a viral moment. I wanted clarity and procedure. I watched public posts. I checked bookings. When she moved rooms, if she moved rooms, I had no interest beyond the ledger. When Jason posted a sunset selfie from the same terrace, it felt like an admission. People assume revenge needs fire. It needs paperwork mostly. It needs patience and the right timestamp. She came back with a bruise in her voice and no suitcase of explanations. She came to my door at midnight, mascara running, hair pinned in a drunken knot. She pushed until I opened. "Please," she said, wrapping her hands around my forearms. "I made a mistake. I love you. We can fix this." We stood under the hallway light. The plumbing in the building sounded like a distant judge. "Prove it," I said. She stepped to me with those wide, exhausted eyes and said, "Nathan, I didn't mean to hurt you, I just—" She searched for the word and found lost. "I felt like I needed air, Nathan. You were always so anchored. I wanted to float." "Floating with someone else is not a break," I said. "It's another arrangement." "I didn't plan to—" She stopped, swallowed. "It's complicated." I had been married once before, I thought. Not in fact, but in my head, I had designed the blueprint for this relationship. We promised not to keep secrets. She had folded her promise into a pocket and walked away with it. "Complicated isn't a shield," I told her. "It's a decision." She fell silent and then begged, "Please, Nathan, I can fix it. I'll stop. I'll tell May. I'll call him and end it." "Melodrama sounds like repair plans in the movies," I said. "Real repair is signatures and proof, and time, and change." She said she would do it, that she would sign whatever I asked. I asked for one thing, for her to call May and copy me on the email confirming she relinquished any change request. She called from the corridor and I watched the call log, 37 seconds. The email came later, thin and trembling. "I, Sophie L., withdraw any requests to alter the venue date without consent." It wasn't enough, but it was a paper step. Paper remembers. She sobbed and hit the floor in front of me. This was theater, maybe, or maybe genuine collapse. "Please, Nathan, you have to let me in. You ruined everything," she wailed. "You made choices," I said. "I made steps to protect us." She left to a friend's hotel and then to a rental. She sent messages that looked like travel journals, all sunrise and reflection, and no actual work toward rebuilding trust. I kept the daily rhythm the way a metronome returns a song to time. Mornings were coffee and cycling through emails. Afternoons were meetings and code. Evenings were dishes and quiet. Neighbors asked how I was. I said fine, which was true in the pragmatic way that matters. My friends were careful. Some stepped back. People don't like to pick sides in private matters, and that silence is its own punishment. The planner confirmed the deposit status. The bank kept the monitor. Small, dull things held more power than shouting. I kept a drawer with printed copies, images, timestamps, emails. Not because I wanted trophies, Because truth sometimes needs witnesses who won't forget. Months later, at a neighbor's barbecue, a stranger mentioned he'd seen a broken-up couple at a nearby cafe. We nodded and moved on. The world goes on like that. Small tragedies, coffee steeped. My ex, she tried to reach out to friends, to mutual acquaintances. Some answered, some didn't. The planner emailed back, "No changes without written consent. Happy to assist when both parties are ready." Jason vanished from our story. Publicly, he tried to be brave and failed. He didn't text me, he didn't call. People who want to be unburdened by consequence are rarely prepared for the quiet that follows their admission. I kept living in simple routines. Work, laundry, dishes, logging the day. The planner confirmed the deposit status. The bank kept the monitor. Small, dull things held more power than shouting. I sat on my balcony one night with a small pour of whiskey and thought about how people say they want honesty but are allergic to its consequences. She had wanted a break from my emotional attachment. I had given her a break loaded with conditions she hadn't considered: public accountability, contractual rigidity, and the mundane application of bank policy. She sent one last message months later. "I'm sorry. I wish I'd told you." It popped on my phone like an undertow. I read it and did not reply. Then I packed away the envelope with the indexed screenshots into a folder labeled Evidence. Not legal evidence, perhaps, but a record of choices. People often confuse drama with justice. Justice is often an index. I thought about telling the whole story over and over in my head, trimming the edges where emotion crept in and leaving the spine of facts. It made the narrative cleaner. It didn't make it less painful. Honesty is a kind of architecture. It requires foundational work, sometimes demolition, and a careful rebuild if you want it to stand. I decided to be an architect of my life rather than a demolisher of theirs. There is a strange grace in routine after betrayal. You can see where the furniture sits, map the sunlight, know exactly how the kettle hums. Those small certainties became my anchors. I kept the folder in a locked drawer for one reason, so that if anyone ever asked what happened, I could be precise rather than accusatory. Precision is kinder in the long run. She will have stories, I know that. She will tell versions of herself that make her the hero of that moment. People do that. It's more comfortable than looking at the ledger. I will keep my receipts. I will keep the planner's email and the bank reference numbers. I will let time do what time does best, reveal what choices cost people. Then the river turned the city's light, and the horizon smelled like rain. I poured a final measure of whiskey, neat, watched the neighborhood lights blink, and thought, sometimes the most brutal thing you can do for someone is return their choices to them and let them live with what they bought. It isn't cruel. It's honest. I had not sought to humiliate her. I sought to protect myself. The world has quiet ways to place consequences on choices, and I intended to see those consequences through. I watched one more vacation post of the lanterns, then turned the page. I would not be a footnote in someone else's travel album.